Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the next episode of Waterloo Road Rewind. This time, we'll be looking at the fourth episode of the first series. Now, this one's kind of interesting because this is the plot that I remember the most from series one. I'm not sure if I'd necessarily call it my favourite, but it is very amusing. So, this one kind of continues the plot that we saw from last episode where the house system is getting really competitive with one another. We see that Lewis and Janice are both cheating to try and make their houses the best in the whole school. So Lewis was paying Ahmed to basically do coursework for him. Ahmed was relishing in it. He was making money. He was doing this, that, and the other. Lewis was happy because he was getting good grades in French. Again, this could only work in French, I think, because Steph is just so incompetent that she couldn't tell the difference between Lewis's old work and his new work and the radical improvement. Or if she did, she didn't care because it's making her look good and it's giving her attention from Jack, which, fundamentally that's all Steph wants at this point in the series, is to be more romantically involved with Jack and to have sort of more job security because, well, we know, the staff know, and the students know just how lazy Steph is, as a teacher. So there's all that going for her. We also see Janice sort of step up to the mark of bully a little bit in this one as well. So she was paying Ahmed to sabotage Lewis, to purposely just make errors and stuff. I really like the bit in the classroom where Steph is like, Lewis, this work isn't up to your usual standard, and Lewis is like, what? And then kicks off. He's like, well, it better be. And then very clearly looks at Ahmed, and Steph still doesn't clock what's going on. And he spells pomme de terre wrong, and then Steph's like, oh, Ahmed spelled pomme de terre, and as he spells it correctly, you can just see Lewis get angrier and angrier. It's just so well acted. It's just such fun to watch. And then, yeah, so... Sorry, hay fever's starting to really hit me now. So might sound a bit groggy for a few weeks. And then... Yeah, so... that's where this plot sort of goes. So Janice is then paying Ahmed to sabotage Lewis, which Ahmed is doing. Lewis, again, is not happy about it, and understandably, he feels like he's being ripped off. All I see is just two people bullying Ahmed, but, Ahmed, after Lewis, punches him in the stomach, which, again, is quite an uncomfortable scene to watch. I do think, and just as a little tangent, I do think that with Lewis specifically, but I do see it with some of the other cast as well. I felt it with Shuey and Billy in Series 14. I think... and even sort of Rhiannon and Scout in Series 8. I'm trying to think of any other sort of examples. Yeah, I think that when you have a bully student like that, or even that scene at the start of Series 4 where Bolton and Paul are being kept hostage by, Earl, who's got the gun. I think that what Waterloo Road does well is when you have a bully character like Lewis pick on someone like Ahmed, seeing them get verbally abused or physically abused, it's very uncomfortable to watch. As I'm getting older, I think it's that much more sort of difficult to watch, but in a good way, I think, because it's resonating with the audience. We know that Lewis beating on this guy is awful and it's uncomfortable to watch. And I think that for the acting and the dialogue and the writing, just to pull that off, and the choreography and everything, I think it's a really good thing. Because I think especially if you're a younger person watching it, it will resonate because you see how uncomfortable it is. So I think that as long as Waterloo Road exists, hopefully there'll be less bullying, because scenes like that are just uncomfortable and bullying is just awful. Any bully is an absolute coward. So I think that's done really well. And I think Lewis, just on the whole, acts the whole thing well. And yeah, towards the end of the episode where he knocks the books to the ground and he's like, Ahmed, I'll see you outside later or whatever. It's just, you can see the fear in Ahmed. It's just done well. I did say in my notes that I found that sort of dynamic in this episode really interesting, because you've got Lewis who's bullying someone, you've got Janice doing the exact same thing. But I think that when they both sit down with Andrew and Kim, I think that the motivations are clear, and I think that the use of Lewis specifically against Janice highlights sort of the good qualities in Janice, because Janice is not like a bad person whatsoever. So like we see that Janice is just like, I can't pass any other way. Like, it's not a good thing I'm doing. Like, she knows that it's wrong. And then at the end, she's just like, I'm thick, which Andrew and Kim are a bit like, you're not, but like, and then the punishment for the pair of them is either go to the cooler or clean all the graffiti off that they put all over the school. And Lewis kicks up a fuss, and then Janice is like, it's fine, I'll do all of it. Like, in that moment, like, we see in Janice's voice just sounds defeated. She sounds like she knows she did wrong. Like, there's no fighting her. Not like she's just given up entirely, but it's like the conversation, the explanation, it's all sort of, it's resonated with Janice, and she knows that she basically did a bad thing and she wants to make amends for it, whereas Lewis is just annoyed. And then that thing that I said in the last episode, so the thing, that joke where Jack is like, oh, you'll get money from my own pocket, lad, or whatever he says to Lewis. And then Lewis was like, oh, but the winning team said, the rumor said that the winning team was going to get money. And then Andrew laughs it off and was like, Lewis, I think he was joking. And Lewis was like, oh, what? So all of this has been for nothing? And then Lewis goes on that ramble about how he'll, like, get them back and stuff. I think that, like, again, it's the differences in Janice and Lewis here. Janice has done wrong. She accepts it. She wants to be a better person. Lewis is annoyed because he feels like he's not gained something that he deserves. It's entitlement. That's the difference here. And I think the fact it was these two characters specifically that went up against each other was good for those reasons. As I said at the start of this podcast, this is the most memorable episode. I'm not sure if I'd arguably say iconic episode, because I think the episode where Lewis goes for Kim is arguably the more iconic one. I think it's either the finale or it's the penultimate episode. But this is the one where Jimmy, so Izzy's ex-husband and Chloe and Mika's dad, kicks off about the fact that he feels like his demands are not being met because Izzy tried charging him for gluing the lock in her car, which he did, so I don't see the issue here. He dresses up as a rabbit and goes on the roof of the school and starts protesting that kids need their dads and dads have got rights and stuff. So on the one hand, I get the angle. Like, I think that not in this situation, because he is 100% in the wrong, but I think that dads should have a right to see kids. Like, even if parents are divorced or separated or whatever, like, they've got to put the kids first. So assuming the dad is responsible, is doing all he can to support the child, then yeah, I think that a dad being denied is wrong. Whereas equally, it could be a dad who's in full-time custody of a child and he's denying the mother the rights when the mother's paying towards the child, is trying to support the child. Then I think she should also have the rights. It goes both ways, and in that regard, I think it's right. But if we look at what Jimmy's done so far, he's being petty towards Izzy. He abandoned the girls when Izzy was at the wedding in the first episode, and as a result, Chloe got into a car crash. Dante ended up in prison. One of the kids is in a coma and the other one's dead. So, like, I mean, Dante probably still would have taken his dad's car out and partied with the other two. That probably would have been a factor that still would have happened. But, like, he needed to stay. Chloe and Mika are minors. You can't just leave them on their own like that. Like, that's neglect. It's irresponsible. I think the police should be investigating the dad as well for that, personally, but it is what it is. And then, like, gluing the car, the fact he's not been paying the bills towards, like, the kids like he's meant to as, like, a father. It's just, he's just a bit of a layabout. And when, like, Izzy, like, is forced into that position where she's like, right, for the sake of the girls and to get this man off the roof, like, I will talk him down and stuff, which wasn't, like, she's not in the wrong here. And then he just waffles about. He doesn't give answers. It's when she's like, oh, And if you agree to be responsible, then you can have every other weekend and 2 weeks holiday each year and stuff. And he's like, oh, but I just want to turn up whenever. It's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, but yeah, and then you just find out the girls realize, or Mika realizes, that he's just a bit of a layabout, that he's a bit of a waster. And yeah, I don't really understand why it's the rabbit though. Like, maybe the costume shop didn't have anything else, or maybe he was trying to be memorable, so he went as ludicrous as possible with it. But I mean, it kind of worked for him, so I guess there's that. Although I'd argue it's more the rain and him not wanting to see one of his daughters slip off the roof. But you know, funny fact, and again, whenever I watch this episode, it reminds me of it. So when I was in secondary school, I was in my final year doing my GCSEs. It was around Easter time. And the way my school worked, it was a primary and secondary. Basically, you could go from age 2 to sixth form. And the school was sort of split. So you'd have like the secondary area and the primary area. And my acting head teacher, because they changed year on year, it was a bit like a Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher from Harry Potter type situation where we just had a different one every year. The one we had in my final year, she was awful for a lot of reasons. She was a bit like Umbridge or Miss Trunchbull, that kind of woman. I was in the library because I had a free period, so I was definitely revising, e.g. not reading comics and playing on my phone. And she came in with a bunch of the reception kids, and she was dressed in a full-on rabbit costume. And I think they may have been doing some kind of Easter egg hunt or something, but it was just the most bizarre thing that she was sat down on the carpet bit of the library reading an Easter book to all of these like 4-year-olds or however old you are on reception, I have no idea. And I was just up on the balcony bit, like I had a textbook out, which there was like a graphic novel on the inside, and I had my phone sort of on my lap. And I was looking down and I was just like, what am I witnessing? It was so bizarre, and I think that's going to stick with me forever. And yeah, whenever I come back and I watch this one and I see Jimmy in that dumb rabbit costume, I mean, that's what I get. That's what I think. And I mean, me witnessing it myself in school, I mean, it was very much a Donnie Darko type situation, but it was very, very interesting to watch. The more I think about it as well, it's just absolutely bizarre. And the costume that my head teacher was wearing wasn't a really flattering bunny costume like the one that Jimmy's wearing. It was much more of a terrifying one, like it much more aligned with Donnie Darko than the Easter Bunny. So that's kind of that. But yeah, that's sort of the main crux of the plot, is Jimmy protesting on the roof. We also had some more development on the Tom, Izzy, Lorna love triangle, and we're 4 episodes in now, so you know how I feel about this plot point. It's not great, but it is what it is. I just think that that plot specifically, it's a mess. When I watched it with my friend last November or whatever we watched it, because we watched it as a block, we watched basically the first half of the series continuously and had a few drinks, and it was a fun time. The plot felt not better because it's still bad in my opinion, but it flowed slightly better. Whereas now for this format, I'm sort of watching it immediately after I'm coming to my studio. I'm recording, as you're hearing right now, and then I'm watching the next one. I figured that would be the easiest way not to get episodes confused, so I just thought about one at a time. But it's not flowing as well. Because like now, Tom phoned the clinic and he found out that Lorna didn't have the checkup. Izzy went with her, and then Tom sort of forced her hand and Lorna confessed about the abortion. And then Tom went off the rails and was like, I can't believe you lied to me. And I'm like, well, equally, Tom, you weren't honest with her about the fact that you're in love with Izzy and Izzy's in love with you. So I think everyone is kind of at fault in this plot. And as I said, watching it as little snapshots, little hour-long little snippets, opposed to an 8-hour block in one go, makes it feel all the more jarring. Like, I just I want to get past this and to the good Tom Clarkson stuff, because it's making me dislike Tom, which isn't good because Tom is the second best character. only shortly behind our friend Grant Me Budgeon. So there's that. Yeah, and then at the end, like, Lorna says she wants a divorce. It's probably for the best, to be honest with you. So Tom has to sort of resonate with that. And like, Mika's read Izzy's diary, so she knows that Izzy's also likes Tom. And yeah, it just, now that Tom and Lorna are sort of broken up, I do guess there is some kind of development, but we've still got another 16 odd episodes of this. So yeah, fun. So Lewis, as I said earlier on, he was like, oh, I'm going to get them for this, to Janice when they're cleaning graffiti off the wall. And Janice is just a little bit like, you're an idiot, just shut up. And then Lewis throws the brick through the window, and it hits Andrew in the back of the head. Jack goes berserk and tries to see through the brick. And then Lewis gets really cocky and is like, oh, someone hit you with a brick, sir. And we see Andrew almost lose it and take a swing at Seddon. Yeah, I think that Andrew's sort of struggling a bit to adapt to this sort of school environment. Like, he's holding himself well, but Seddon's really pushing the buttons. Like, I think this episode specifically is sort of really highlighting to the audience that for this series, at least, like, Lewis is the villain character. He is the stereotypical, like, bad kid. And out of all of the bad kid tropes that we see across the whole show, I would argue Lewis is one of the worst. I think Earl Kelly will forever hold the top dog position, but I would put Lewis comfortably in second, I think. Because like, I know Lewis sort of gets redeemed, he gets a job at the school cafeteria and stuff, but his arc is kind of cut short because, like, you know, the actor did some horrible stuff in real life. So again, I do think it would have been interesting to see where Lewis's character was going, but now it's the brick, and sort of we're seeing his, like, attitude spiral out of control and stuff, and it's only going to get worse, as we know. So I think that, like, at the moment, Lewis is like the villain of this series. And then the other sort of thing to talk about is, like, Chloe visits Dante in prison. They get engaged, and Dante tries to make Chloe take the fall. His logic is like, oh, if we both confess, like, it'll sort of like balance out and neither of us can go to prison, which is stupid. Every time I watch this, I can't decide if I think Dante knows it's bullshit and he's just trying to have Chloe as a scapegoat. I'm sort of leaning more towards it because there's one line of dialogue that Dante says to her that makes me think that's the case. I think he says something like, oh, Chloe, you've got a lot of unexpected things coming. But I think after the line of dialogue about getting engaged, Chloe took it as a positive. But I think that Dante was sort of being manipulative in that moment. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Is Dante just trying to scapegoat Chloe, or am I reading too much into it? Because I don't know. I mean, the next episode, Dante's like, because I saw the cutaway the next time, Dante sort of like talks to his dad and is like, I'm lying, I'll take the fall or whatever. So maybe it is the case. But yeah, I quite like this one. I think it's probably one of the better ones of the season so far. I think it feels a lot more like what Waterloo Road should feel like now, structure-wise. So yeah, I think that just about covers everything. This has been Waterloo Road Rewind. You've had all is new, and I will catch you next episode. Have a good day, and I'll see ya.